The Ohio State Buckeyes are national champions, and now it means that the entire state of Ohio can officially turn its attention to baseball season. Welcome in, everybody, to Chatterbox Reds. I'm your host, Craig Sandlin, joined by my good friend, Nick Kirby. Nick, how are we doing this Monday evening, Tuesday morning, if you're listening to the podcast?
Doing well. Wish, Notre Dame, Ohio State would have had the under hit, but you know what? We can't all be winners. Sometimes we're losers, and we move on to the next day.
Oh man. Anyway, we congratulations to those Ohio State fans. I know there's many of them amongst the Chatterbox family. So congrats to you and to the Buckeye Nation and Buckeye faithful. But like I said, with the end of college football season and no Ohio NFL teams in the playoffs, it means it is officially baseball season in Ohio, with pitchers and catchers just a few short weeks away. Let's chat about some of the latest news for the Reds and around the league. But first, Nick, let's remind our friends about our good friends over at Deep South Commodities.
Yeah, as always, Chatterbox Reds is proudly sponsored by Deep South Commodities. DSC is a leader in renewable commodities for biofuel production, specializing in used cooking oil collection, aggregation, and sales. Visit www.deepsouthcommodities.com for more information. Thanks, as always, to our friends at DSC.
All right, Nick, let's get into it. Not a huge piece of news, but interesting nonetheless, in a high upside piece that came out today, Monday, for those of you that are listening on Tuesday. Reds announced on Monday the signing to an MiLB deal of left-handed relief pitcher Alex Young. Obviously, Reds fans very familiar with Alex Young, was part of the team as recently as 2024. Looking to bring him back on a minor league deal now. Quite frankly, Nick, and this is a talking point we've got to get into, but the Reds still need to add to the bullpen, even with this addition of Alex Young. Seems like a piece that they still need. A couple pieces there. What's your outlook on the bullpen right now and on this Alex Young signing?
Yeah, I'm gonna run through the bullpen here in a second, but look, anytime you can get a picture of Alex Young's quality to sign a minor league deal, I mean, it's a win. I mean, this guy, since 2022, 2.36 ERA, 2023, 3.86 ERA, 2024, 2.87 ERA. He hasn't pitched a ton. 2023 actually made 63 appearances for the Reds. Every other year has been kind of some injuries. Last year, I think it was a lower back disc type injury that we know that can really be a brutal injury for a pitcher. But yeah, look, I think you're thrilled to get him back on a minor league deal. He's kind of a guy that this is multiple times where I'm just surprised that he's on a minor league deal. Like, I was surprised last year he pitched in the minor leagues and kind of was the guy that was going back and forth. I really don't understand that. Alex Young still had options last year, which was a big piece of that. If he didn't have those options, he probably would have been in the majors. Kind of got screwed. I think he's going to be out of options now, but nonetheless, yeah, this is a quality arm, a pretty reliable arm. I think you feel like if you need Alex Young on your roster to start the season, you have a quality veteran there that isn't going to blow up or anything like that. I would like to see the Reds add some high upside minor league signings, some guys that, maybe have the potential to break out. And that would kind of complement this move with Alex Young. But there's still a lot of time before spring training. There's still a lot of guys that are probably like Alex Young who are hoping to get a major league deal. Well, didn't happen. I'm going to go to a team that I liked playing for. I liked Derek Johnson. I liked the organization, all that kind of stuff. You're going to start seeing more of these probably start popping up.
Yeah, Alex Young, you mentioned it briefly, but missed a majority of last year with the what ended up being a lower back disc degeneration is what they were calling it. Spent a majority of the time on the IL this past season, went to a rehab start in Louisville, and then ultimately, as you'll remember, was part of the trade to acquire Austin Slater from the San Francisco Giants. The Giants then put him on waivers, and he was claimed by the New York Mets. Got some innings with the New York Mets down the stretch last year. Only 3 appearances with the Reds in 2024. but a guy that's put up good numbers under Derek Johnson, as you mentioned. And like you said, I think ultimately when you're talking about this bullpen and adding a guy on a minor league deal like this, I think there's a ton of upside there. And let's take a minute and take a look at the Reds bullpen going into 2024. I think, like I said, it's still one of those areas that I think the Reds need to add to. There's some potential guys in the minors that have, for the Reds that could make the 28-man roster come 2025. But when you're looking at it, only a handful of really proven guys at the major league level at this point.
Yeah, I think that's what you're going to see here in the breakdown of the Reds 2025 bullpen. So right now, I think there's 5 locks, and that would obviously be Alexis Diaz, Emilio Pagan, Tony Santillan, Sam Moll, and Brent Suter. But remember, Pagan and Moll dealt with a lot of injuries last year, so there's no guarantee that won't linger over into 2025. And obviously, Diaz and Santillan and Suter could be their turn next year, so you never know. So those are your 5 locks. So that leaves you still with 3 spots that are, I don't think anyone really has an upper leg on. So you have obviously now Alex Young, you have Yasver Zulueta, Casey Legumita, and the Reds also did a minor league signing of Brian Shaw, which I think is more of just a courtesy signing. But I'll throw those 4 guys as your conventional reliever options. Then you have a couple really high upside options, and Zach Maxwell, who when he was on last year at AA and AAA was absolutely dominant, but like most guys that throw over 100 miles per hour, he struggles with his command at times. And when he was bad, he was really bad. Luis May, a guy that really kind of flew through the Reds, not system, but flew up the pecking order. Guy that also throws, I think he's actually up over 103. I believe he had the Dayton Dragons fastest pitch ever recorded, was dominant in the Arizona Fall League last year. Probably actually ahead of Maxwell in the pecking order just because based on his Arizona Fall League performance, but he's there. And then Andrew Moore, he's another guy, a lefty, part of the Luis Castillo return, has some high upside as well. Those are your 3 high upside. And then there's the whole crop of starting pitchers that you could turn into relievers. You have Graham Ashcraft, Carson Spires, Connor Phillips, Lyon Richardson, Owen White, guy the Reds got from the Rangers, and then Jose Acuna. I think it makes sense to have, I know everyone's wanting to just throw Ashcraft in the bullpen, but it makes sense to have Ashcraft, Spires, Phillips, all those guys go to camp as a starter because it's a lot harder to go back the other way. And there could be a rash of injuries, and all of a sudden, Graham Ashcraft looks a lot better in your rotation than having to throw, with all due respect, Lyon Richardson or someone like that. So, and then also there's Nick Martinez. I'm not really throwing him in this mix yet, but he could ultimately end up in the bullpen. That's kind of where the Reds are at right now. I'd love to see them go out and get one more major league proven guy. It doesn't have to be a massive signing, but you just saw some of these reliever signings and you're like, man, I don't know if I really want the Reds to go out and spend $20 million on a reliever. I prefer to go on a bat, and I'd prefer to just kind of roll the dice on relievers because I feel like your $20 million bat, it has a lot less volatility than a $20 million reliever.
So let's put our Terry Francona and GM hat on real quick, Nick. Fangraphs has the bullpen being filled out by Graham Ashcraft, Yasver Zulueta, and Carson Spires. If you're running the Reds in 2025 and everybody's healthy, obviously that's a huge piece of it always. Who are your last 3 in the bullpen?
I'm going to say Alex Young takes a spot. I'm going to say Nick Martinez is in the rotation because one of the starters isn't healthy. We'll just throw him in the rotation. So then I'm going to say it's going to be one of Maxwell or May, whichever one shows up to camp and plays better. I'm going to guess May out of the 2. I don't see both of those guys making the roster. And then I think the last spot will be a starter. And probably Ashcraft would be up there. Carson Spires, he was really, really good. We forget how good he was early in the year. He fell apart at the end of the year, but he had some really good moments with this team. And I could even see a guy like Connor Phillips or Owen White they're very similar pitchers. If you look at their statistics, just high walks. See one of those guys, going in there. I think with Phillips, I'd be surprised if he's the guy they throw in the bullpen first. I think they'll want to go more of the Ashcraft. I think they're going to want to give him another run on a clean slate of a season before they throw him in the bullpen, but it is an option.
Yeah. Look, one of the other obvious areas that many Reds fans would agree is an area of need is the outfield, Nick. And a lot of fans had their eyes on Orioles free agent Anthony Santander. News breaks on Monday that Santander is going to the Blue Jays on a 5-year, $92.5 million deal with a club option. Look, just like anybody, adding a power bat to the outfield is certainly one of the things that I think this Reds organization would benefit from greatly. I don't think anybody thought that the Reds would ever consider a 5-year deal for Santander. And, there were rumors last week that maybe he'd consider a shorter term deal. And then, of course, on Monday, we get the news 5 years, 92.5. What was your response and reaction when you first saw that news that Santander was going to the Blue Jays on a 5.92.5?
Congrats to the Blue Jays, and actually more congrats to Santander and his agent. Look, the Reds, that would be ludicrous for the Reds to do. They don't need to go sign a guy that's going to be 30 years old to a 5-year deal that can't play defense, that's coming off a career year, that has a low batting average, a low on-base percentage, hits a lot of home runs. I would encourage you go look at Anthony Santander's 2024 and then go look at Mike Moustakas' 2019. If you don't believe that guys like Santander can regress. Now, will Anthony Santander be a good player in 2025? I think the answer is probably yes. Will Anthony Santander be a good player in 2026? I think the answer is probably yes. But 2027, 2028, 2029, I don't want to find out what those years look like for Anthony Santander. It's a no. You're not going to sign a guy like that. And we've also talked about where the Reds are at with the uncertainty with the TV deals. They weren't looking at long-term deals, especially for mid-tiers. Like, I think the Reds, if they could lock up Ellie De La Cruz, and that's a whole nother can of worms, I think that would be the kind they'd say, the hell with the TV deal. We'll figure things out around it. But we're not going to figure things around it for Anthony Santander. So, this was a no-brainer. I don't think the Reds would have ever even considered that long of a deal.
Yeah, I don't either. And a reminder, Santander is 30 years old as it is, and history doesn't bode well for 30-year-old outfielders with only really 1 year of success under their belt. Doesn't mean that he couldn't have found something and that he's going to parlay it into a couple more good years, but I don't know. That felt like a long contract to me. Club option for a 6th year, I cannot imagine that gets picked up. I think I saw that the value is somewhere in the 18 million range on that 6th year. But it still does beg the question, Nick, and this is really what it comes down to is, are the Reds still in the market for an outfielder? And if so, what does that market look like at this point? And is there a fit that makes sense for the Reds at this point in your eyes?
We also want to remind you that you can call or text 988 anytime, day or night. The 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is a place to get support for anything related to mental health. Whether it's an immediate crisis, simply wanting to find out how to connect with care, or anything in between, it's a 100% confidential, secure, and an anonymous way to reach out for help when you don't know where else to turn. To connect, call or text 988 or visit mantherapy.org to get help. It's okay not to be okay. Yeah, there's still a lot of options left. There's still a lot of free agents available. My top board right now would be Randall Grichuk, Austin Hayes, Ramon Laureano. I also am not against Harrison Bader, which I know probably a lot of people are. But you still have other guys like Mark Canna, Adam Duvall, Manuel Margot, Kiki Hernandez, Alex Verdugo, Jerkson Profar, Tommy Pham. Don't think that's going to happen, but there's still quite a bit of names. The first 3 are the ones, Grichuk, Hayes, and Laureano. Those are the ones I really want to see the Reds targeting right now, unless there's a trade out there that we don't know about. And then you also have a couple other options. I, again, prefer just going out and getting a legitimate outfielder, but you could just get another bat and kind of figure it out. JD Martinez is still available. Justin Turner Connor Joe. And then my favorite target of them all would be just go out and get Ha-Sung Kim, throw him at third base, and put Gavin Lux in the outfield. I think that would be the best case scenario. I think he's going to command too many years for the Reds, but that would be my top dream pick, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I'll go back to a name that I threw out a couple of weeks ago as well, and I think it speaks to the emphasis really that this team is putting on to defense more than anything else, and that's John Birdie. I realize that he's not going to bring a whole lot offensively, but he does get on base. Doesn't really slug anything, obviously, but on base last year at 342 clip, he hit 273. Can steal a base for you, and more importantly, is that kind of flexible defender for you that can play multiple positions across the infield and outfield. So he certainly is somebody else that I would potentially look at. I don't know how much this in recent memory that he's had a chance to play outfield compared to infield. I know he's been mainly the infield, but ultimately it seems like that they've been giving him or kind of focusing on some flexibility with the Gavin Lux move. John Birdie, 129 games in left field, 117 games in center field, and 31 games in right field in his career. So definitely has experience there, and probably quite frankly, a better option in the outfield than Gavin Lux would be. But nonetheless, I think ultimately you, myself, and most Reds fans would be much happier with a real bat to put in the outfield. And right now, there are a number of options, and Jurickson Profar is one that's kind of stood out to me since the beginning as an option. I realize, similar to what we're talking about with Santander and being kind of a one-year wonder. But I think Profar could probably be had for a much smaller contract than Santander. So it'd be interesting to see what he would be interested in taking. But nonetheless, outfield continues to be the area that many Reds fans are focused on in terms of 2025 and improving. So we will keep an eye on that. And certainly, as always, if news breaks, we'll be sure to bring it to you. Another potential signing that many Reds fans, I think, kind of tricked themselves into thinking that there was a chance on Nick is Roki Sasaki. For many Reds fans, they thought, okay, well, we have plenty of international bonus pool. We have Derek Johnson, who can serve as an asset to develop the young star. Ultimately, though, instead of signing Sasaki, the Reds instead make a trade with the Dodgers and help them sign Sasaki.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure the Reds would have loved to. I think all 30 teams would have taken him for the amount of money that he went for, but it's just a matter of him choosing the Dodgers, because if you're from overseas, I mean, you would probably choose the Dodgers, with Shohei Ohtani and their, dominance right now, and, gives you, it's not just, he has to sign for such a small amount of money. The thing I don't think gets talked about is the amount of other incentives that come with signing with the Dodgers in terms of media deals and partnerships and stuff, not just here, but more so over there that he can get endorsement wise. So again, it is what it is on that. But yeah, I'm thrilled the Reds, I don't love that they helped out the Dodgers, but someone was going to, and I'm sure the Reds were able to capitalize on this. This is just a great thing for the Reds. Reds able to get a 19-year-old outfield prospect, Arnaldo Lantigua. Incredible year last year in the Dominican Summer League. Hit 301, 430 on base percentage, 11 home runs, stole 6 bases. That's just in 49 games. Dodgers Digest had him ranked as the number 31 prospect. And the Dodgers, one of the best farm systems in baseball. Someone else had him ranked as high as 21. Some great X velocity. So again, this is a lottery ticket, like pretty much everyone in the Dominican Summer League is for the most part, but you can never have too many of these. And I think he's poised to go back down there again in 2025, but love this deal for the Reds. The Reds literally gave up nothing. They didn't even give away money. They just gave away the ability to spend money. So literally nothing. Like, this is the ultimate deal. if you're able to get it.
Yeah, that's certainly one way to put it. Look, I think ultimately it didn't ever sound like the Reds were in the market for Sasaki. Obviously, from the Reds' perspective, they're doing everything they can right now. It seems to kind of optimize their payroll, I'll say, and that bonus pool money was certainly not going to really benefit them this year. It seemed like, and like you said, Lantigua seems like a really good prospect. It's hard to really say a whole lot about him because we haven't seen a whole lot out of him. But for those people that want to kind of poo-poo on the DSL, I would encourage you to go look at how MiLB Marte did in the DSL this year, and he didn't do too well. So good numbers out of the DSL for sure for Lantigua. And again, look, this is a Reds farm system that is flush with infield talent. So adding kind of this outfield talent makes a lot of sense to me. And look, if he's really as good as a lot of people think he is, then we'll certainly have a chance to see him here soon in the Reds minor leagues and beyond. And speaking of that, the Reds depth at the infield, the Reds did announce their international signing class recently as well, Nick, and that included yet another promising middle infielder for the Reds.
Yeah, so this kind of goes hand in hand with the trade. So this year's class on paper's a little bit more underwhelming, at least in terms of like the top end talent. The Reds got 17-year-old shortstop Libertz Aponte from Venezuela for $1.9 million. He's ranked as the number 18th best international prospect. And for some context, last year the Reds had Adolfo Sanchez at number 5. Year before, Alfredo Duno at number 4. Year before that, Ricardo Cabrera at number 3. So the Reds were getting the top guys. So that might have been why they had a little bit more money to get Lantigua, who by all accounts is probably a better prospect right now than most of the guys you have been trying to sign, because he's already proven something in a professional baseball setting. So again, the rankings for 17-year-olds, I would put a whole lot of stock into it. Obviously, Ellie De La Cruz was nowhere even close to a ranking. He's obviously a unicorn in that regard, but nonetheless, another good player to add. Baseball America said on Aponte, the shortstop, 17-year-old shortstop the Reds got, he's an athletic, agile defender, plus runner who projects as a true shortstop with good bat-to-ball skills from the right side. Sounds like a really, really great defender. You hope he can, grow into a little bit more of a offensive player, but by all accounts, an absolutely elite defensive shortstop. So keep stacking them up, Reds organization, and we'll see what we can get, because you hit on one of those a year. I mean, that's huge for your organization.
Yep. And only time will tell. It'll be several years before we really know how this trade worked out, or this international signing class worked out. Obviously, you just mentioned 3 of the top international signings the Reds have had in recent years. All 3 of them still probably a couple years away from making a major league impact. So time will tell how those all work out. But for now, certainly seem promising, and certainly, if nothing else, fit the mold of what the Cincinnati Reds are trying to do in terms of building their farm system.